The soft hiss of the cryopod opening broke the silence that had lasted for 3,000 years. Captain Hoon Kim gasped as his lungs filled with air for the first time since Earth died. His eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the dim blue light of the ship's medical bay. "Systems check complete." "Welcome back, Captain Kim," said the ship's computer in a calm voice. Hoon sat up, his muscles weak after the long sleep. The room spun around him. He gripped the edge of the cryopod to steady himself. "How many years?" he asked, his voice rough from disuse. 3,027 years have passed since departure," the computer replied. Hoon nodded. It was time. The plan set in motion by his ancestors had reached its final stage. And the colonists. 493 humans are alive on board the Eternal Memory *. All systems functioning normally. Hoon stood on shaky legs and walked to the viewport. Outside, the stars looked different from what he remembered. The ship had traveled far, hiding in the dark spaces between galaxies, while generations lived and died within its massive hull. "Call Director Ji-sun to the medical bay," Hoon ordered. While he waited, Hoon changed into the captain's uniform that had been prepared for him. The black material felt strange against his skin. He looked at his reflection in the polished metal wall. His face was the same as when he entered the cryopod, a man in his 40s with determined eyes. But he felt ancient. The door slid open, and a woman entered. Director Ji-sun looked nothing like the people Hoon had known on Earth. 3,000 years of living in space had changed the humans on board. She was tall and thin, with pale skin that had never felt sunlight. "Captain Kim," she said with a respectful bow, "the stories about you are true." "What stories?" Hoon asked. "That you knew Earth, that you saw it burn, that you carry the memory of what was done to us." Hoon nodded. "I was there when the Council voted to destroy our planet. I watched from this ship as they wiped out 7 billion lives, because they feared what we might become." Ji's eyes widened. "Then it's really true. All of it." "Show me what you've built here," Hoon said. Ji led him through the ship, a massive vessel that had been designed to sustain human life for as long as necessary. What had once been empty cargo bays were now farms, schools, homes, and workshops. People stopped and stared as Hoon passed. Many bowed their heads or made the sign of Earth, a circle drawn over the heart. "We've kept the mission alive," Ji explained. "Every child learns about Earth, about what was taken from us. Every generation improves our technology, makes us stronger." They entered a large chamber at the heart of the ship. A holographic display showed the galaxy, with the Galactic Council worlds marked in red. "Our scouts have infiltrated their worlds," Ji said. "We know their weaknesses now. The Council has grown lazy and complacent in 3,000 years of peace. They believe they eliminated the Terran threat," Hoon said quietly. "Little do they know, we've been waiting, planning, growing stronger," Ji smiled. "We have weapons they can't imagine, tactics they won't expect." Hoon stepped toward the hologram and pointed to the bright center of the galaxy. "Nexus Prime, the Council capital. That's where we'll strike first." Ji nodded. "The fleet is ready, Captain. 5 ships built in secret within the Eternal Memory *. Enough firepower to make them remember why they feared us." Hoon looked around at the chamber. On the walls were paintings of Earth, blue oceans, green forests, white clouds, images preserved by people who had never seen such things with their own eyes. "We're not just seeking revenge," Hoon said. "We're seeking justice, for Earth, for humanity." "The time has come," Ji agreed. "Humanity returns to the stars." Hoon placed his hand on the control panel. The ship hummed as systems long dormant came to life. "Set course for Council space," he ordered. "The last survivors of Earth are going home." High Chancellor Rinpark stood at the center of the Grand Hall on Nexus Prime. 12 massive seats surrounded her, each filled by a representative of the founding species of the Galactic Council. Light from 3 suns streamed through the crystal dome above, casting rainbow patterns across the polished floor. The 57,000th council meeting is now in session, Rin announced, her voice echoing through the hall. The councilors nodded in respect. Rin was the youngest High Chancellor in council history. At only 120 years old, she was considered barely an adult by most council species. But her intelligence and skill had earned her this position of power. Our first matter today concerns strange artifacts appearing throughout council space, Rin said. Reports indicate they are of Terran origin. A murmur spread through the council. The Valorian representative, a tall blue-skinned being named Stal, stood up. Impossible, Xal said. The Terran threat was eliminated 3 millennia ago. There are no humans left in the galaxy. Rin pressed a button on her podium. A hologram appeared, showing a simple metal disc with strange markings. This was found on Valorian Colony 6, Rin explained. Our experts confirm it is a human data storage device. Similar items have appeared on 27 worlds in the past month. A prank, said the Muldarian representative, waving a tentacle dismissively. Some collector's items stolen and scattered about. Rin shook her head. The objects are new, not ancient, and they all contain the same message. She hesitated. A countdown. The council chamber grew quiet. A countdown to what? Asked Xal. Unknown, Rin admitted, but the final date is approaching. I recommend we increase security across all council worlds and investigate. Unnecessary, interrupted the Zith representative. The humans are gone. Their world is dust. This is merely someone trying to cause panic. Rin wanted to argue, but she knew the council rarely acted quickly. They had lived so long in peace that they had forgotten what danger felt like. Very well, she said. I will investigate this matter personally. After the meeting, Rin returned to her private chambers in the central tower. Her aide, Sung Li, was waiting for her. They dismissed the warning, Rin said, removing her formal robes. Sung nodded. As expected, Chancellor, the council has grown too comfortable. Rin walked to the window. From here, she could see the entire capital city stretching to the horizon. Millions of beings from hundreds of species lived here in harmony. The peace that had lasted for thousands of years seemed unbreakable. Yet lately, Rin had been troubled by strange dreams. A blue planet she had never seen. Faces of people who looked oddly like her own face, and always a sense of terrible loss. Sung, she said quietly, find everything we have on Earth and the humans. The complete records, not the public version. Sung looked surprised. Those files are sealed by ancient council order. I am the High Chancellor. Unseal them. Later that night, Rin sat alone in her study, reading files that had not been opened for centuries. The truth about Earth's destruction was different from what she had been taught. The council had claimed that humans were too violent, too dangerous to join galactic society. But these records told another story. Humans had discovered something, a technology that threatened the council's power, and so they were eliminated. As Rin read, her head began to ache. Images flashed in her mind. A city on Earth, a family, a child being taken away. Her hands trembled as she accessed her personal records. Her genetic profile contained a secret hidden beneath layers of code. It can't be, she whispered. But the evidence was clear. Despite her Valorian upbringing, Rin Park was human. Somehow her ancestors had survived Earth's destruction. And now, as strange artifacts appeared throughout the galaxy, Rin realized she was caught between two worlds, her council duties and a heritage she never knew she had. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. On her screen, one of the human artifacts had activated. The countdown had reached 0. Commander Ta Kang moved through the crowded market on Nexus Prime with practiced ease. No one looked twice at him. His face had been carefully altered to have the slight blue tint of a Valorian half-breed. To everyone around him, he was just another visitor to the capital. But Ta was much more. He was the leader of the human infiltration team, trained since childhood for this mission. 3 generations of his family had prepared for this moment. Position check, Ta said quietly into his hidden communicator. Market sector clear, came the first response. Government district in place, said another voice. Spaceport secure, reported a third. Ta smiled. 12 human agents were now in key positions across Nexus Prime. The Council had no idea that the descendants of Earth walked among them, preparing for revenge. Tai entered a high-end restaurant overlooking the Council towers. A server led him to a private table where a man was waiting. Councillor Sung Lee rose to greet him. "Welcome, Mr. Torin," Sung said, using Ta's false name. "I'm glad you could join me." Ta bowed slightly. "The honor is mine, Councillor." They sat and ordered drinks. To any observer, they looked like a minor official meeting with an important councillor. Normal business on Nexus Prime. "The Chancellor is troubled by the artifacts," Sung said quietly when they were alone. "She's asking questions about Earth." Ta kept his face calm, but his heart beat faster. "Is she a problem for us?" "No," Sung said. "She may be useful. She's discovered something about her past that has shaken her loyalty to the Council." This was unexpected news. Ta leaned forward. "What did she discover?" "She's human," Sung said simply. "Or partly human, at least. Her ancestors somehow survived Earth's destruction. She was raised by Galorians, unaware of her true heritage." Tai sat back, surprised. This changed everything. The plan had been to expose the Council's crimes and force them to face justice. But having a human as High Chancellor offered new possibilities. "We need to make contact with her," Ta decided. Sung nodded. "I've arranged it. Tonight, after the Emergency Council meeting." "Emergency meeting?" Ta asked, suddenly alert. "Yes." When the countdown ended, all communication systems in the Outer Rim went dark. Ships are reporting strange energy readings near the old Earth coordinates. The Council is panicking. Ta smiled. Phase 1 of the plan was working perfectly. The human fleet had arrived. Later that night, Ta stood on a balcony of the central tower. The 3 moons of Nexus Prime cast a silver light over the city. Behind him, the door slid open. High Chancellor Rin Park stepped onto the balcony. She wore simple clothes, not her official robes. She looked younger than Tay expected. "Councillor Lee said you have information for me," Rin said. Her voice was cautious, her hand near the small weapon at her belt. "I have truth," Tay replied. "About Earth. About who you really are." Rin's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" "My name is Commander Ta Kang. I am human, like you. My ancestors escaped Earth before the Council destroyed it." "Prove it," Rin demanded. Tay reached slowly into his pocket and took out a small device. He pressed a button, and a hologram appeared between them, a 3-dimensional map of a planet. "Earth," Ta said softly. "Our home." Rin stared at the hologram, her hand reaching out but stopping short of touching it. "I've seen this in my dreams," she whispered. "Because it's in your blood. In your memory," Tai explained. "The Council didn't just destroy our world. They tried to erase our entire existence. But they failed. We survived. And now we've returned. The artifacts. The countdown. That was you?" Rin asked. Ta nodded. "Phase 1 of our plan. Even now, human ships are moving into position around key Council worlds." Rin's face hardened. "You plan to destroy Nexus Prime, to do to them what they did to Earth?" "No," Ta said. "We want justice, not genocide. We're better than they are." He held out his hand to her. "Help us, Chancellor. Help us make them face what they did." Rin looked at his outstretched hand, her face a battle of emotions. The fate of 2 civilizations hung in the balance of her choice. Min Park moved carefully through the dark corridors of the abandoned space station. Dust floated in the beam of her flashlight. No one had been here for hundreds of years. "Are you sure this is the right place?" asked her partner, Dai, through the comlink. "Yes," Min replied. "According to the old maps, The Council kept their secret archives here before they moved to Nexus Prime. Min was a researcher, not a soldier. Her job in the Human Revenge Plan was to find proof of the Council's crime against Earth. Captain Hoon had sent her to this forgotten outpost at the edge of Council space, while the others worked on Nexus Prime. The air was thin but breathable. Min's footsteps echoed as she reached a large metal door at the end of the corridor. "I found it," she said into her comm. "The main archive room." The door was locked, but Min had prepared for this. She attached a small device to the control panel. It hummed softly as it worked to break the ancient security codes. With a hiss, the door slid open. Min stepped into a vast room filled with data storage units. Most were damaged by time, but some still glowed with faint power. "I need to work fast," Min told Da. "Keep watch." She connected her portable computer to the nearest working unit and began searching through files. Most were routine council records, trade agreements, diplomatic missions, colony reports. But then she found something interesting, a folder marked Terran Containment. Min opened it and began to read. Her eyes widened. "Die," she said, her voice shaking. "I found it. The real reason they destroyed Earth." The files told a different story than the official one. Humans hadn't been destroyed because they were violent. They were destroyed because they had discovered something called the Nexus K, a technology that could tap into the energy that connected all stars in the galaxy. The Council's oldest species used this energy for their immortality. They had kept the secret for thousands of years, using it to maintain their power over younger species. Humans had discovered it by accident and were preparing to share it with everyone. So the Council voted to erase Earth completely. Min downloaded everything she could find about the Nexus Key. With this information, humans could prove the Council's crime and rebuild the technology that had sealed their fate. "Min," Da's worried voice came through the comm. "We have company. Council ships are approaching the station." Min worked faster. "How did they find us?" "Unknown. But we have 10 minutes at most." Just as Min finished the download, a new file caught her eye. It was labeled Preservation Protocol. She opened it quickly. Inside were records of thousands of humans who had been secretly taken from Earth before its destruction. The Council had not killed all humans. Some had been kept as test subjects, servants, or curiosities. Others had been adopted by Council families, their origins hidden even from themselves, including someone named Rin Park. "The High Chancellor," Min whispered. "She's one of us." Back on Nexus Prime, Rin sat alone in her private quarters. After meeting with Tai, she had not slept. Her mind was filled with new questions about her past. She accessed her personal records again, digging deeper than before. There was a hidden file, locked with old Council security codes. Using her Chancellor clearance, she broke through. A video began to play. It showed a human family, a father, mother, and small child. They looked like her. The father spoke directly to the camera. "If you're watching this, Rin, then you've discovered the truth. You are human. You are our daughter. We gave you to our Valorian friends to save you when we learned what the Council planned for Earth." Rin touched the screen, tears falling down her face. "We hope you'll remember us somehow," her mother said in the recording. "And remember Earth. It was beautiful, Rin. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds. The same images from Rin's dreams. The truth must be known," her father continued. "What the Council did cannot be forgotten or forgiven." The message ended. Rin sat in silence for a long moment. Then she made her decision. She called Sung Lee. "Arrange another meeting with Commander Tai," she said. "Tell him I'm ready to help." Admiral Jin Han stood on the bridge of the Remembrance Asterisk, the largest warship ever built by human hands. For 3,000 years, the human fleet had hidden in a pocket dimension, waiting for this moment. Now, it was time. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his second-in-command said. Jin nodded. He was older than most of the crew, with gray in his hair and lines on his face. He had given his life to this mission. Now he would see it completed. "Begin emergence sequence," Jin ordered. "Target the coordinates we received from Commander Ta." The bridge crew worked quickly, their hands moving over control panels. Jin looked at the main screen, which showed the pocket dimension that had been their home for centuries, a small bubble of space hidden from the rest of the galaxy. Dimension fold collapsing in 3, 2, 1, the navigator announced. There was a flash of light as reality bent around them. The remembrance shuddered. When the light faded, they were in normal space again. Through the view screen, Jin could see a beautiful ringed planet. Muldaria, one of the founding council worlds. "Position confirmed," the navigator said. "We are in the Muldarian system. Deploy the Truth satellites," Jin ordered. Across the galaxy, at this exact moment, 5 other human ships were emerging at different council worlds. Each carried the evidence that Min Park had discovered in the archives. From the remembrance small satellites launched toward Muldaria. They entered orbit around the planet and activated, broadcasting their message to every communication device. "People of the Galactic Council," Jin's recorded voice said, 3,000 years ago, your leaders committed genocide against humanity. They destroyed Earth not because we were violent, but because we discovered the truth about the Nexus Key." The message continued, showing the evidence Min had found. The secret council votes. The real reason Earth was targeted. The illegal use of the Nexus Key by the founding species. "We return now not only for revenge, but for justice," Jin's message concluded. "We demand a full accounting for the destruction of Earth and the attempted extinction of humanity." On the bridge, Jin received reports from across the galaxy. The other ships had successfully emerged and deployed their satellites. The truth was spreading to every corner of council space. "Admiral," his communications officer said, "we're receiving thousands of responses from the planet below." "Put them on screen," Jin ordered. The main screen filled with images from Muldaria. Unlike the old, powerful Muldarians who sat on the council, most citizens were young. They looked shocked and horrified by what they were learning. "They didn't know," Jin said softly. "The common people didn't know what their leaders did." Reports began coming in from other ships. On multiple council worlds, protests were breaking out. Younger species who had joined the council after Earth's destruction were demanding answers from their leaders. "Sir," the communications officer said, "we're being hailed from Nexus Prime. It's High Chancellor Park." Jin raised an eyebrow in surprise. "Put her through." Rin Park's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired but determined. "Admiral Jin," she said, "I am contacting you with the knowledge and support of Commander Ta. I believe we can resolve this without further bloodshed." "Chancellor," Jin replied coldly, "your council destroyed our world. Blood has already been shed, 7 billion human lives." "I know," Rin said. "I have learned the truth about Earth, about my own human heritage. The council I lead is not the same council that destroyed your world. Most of our people are innocent of this crime." Jin considered her words. The plan had never been to destroy the council worlds. That would make humans no better than those who had destroyed Earth. The goal was justice, not genocide. "What do you propose?" Jin asked. "An emergency meeting of all council species," Rin said. "You and Captain Hoon will present your evidence. Those responsible will face justice." "And if they refuse?" Jin asked. Rin's expression hardened. "Then your fleet will have proven its point, but give us a chance to make this right." Jin looked around at his bridge crew. They had all been born in space, never knowing Earth except in stories. They deserved a future that was more than endless revenge. "You have 3 days, Chancellor," Jin decided. "Then we take action." The Grand Hall of Nexus Prime had never been so full. Representatives from all council worlds packed the chamber. The normal order and calm of council meetings was gone. Voices shouted over each other. Some demanded war against the human ships. Others called for peace. High Chancellor Rin Park stood at the center, trying to keep order. "Silence," she finally shouted, her voice amplified by the room's systems. The noise died down. "We face the greatest crisis in Council history. We must act with wisdom, not fear." The Valorian representative, Fadizal, stood up. "These humans threaten our worlds with their warships. We should strike first, destroy them as we did before." Many of the older species shouted in agreement, but then a new voice spoke up. "Have we learned nothing in 3,000 years?" All heads turned to look at Jun Choi, the young ambassador from the Altarian hegemony. The Altarians had only joined the Council 500 years ago. "The evidence these humans have shared cannot be ignored," Jun continued. "If the founding Council species destroyed Earth to hide the Nexus Key, then they committed genocide. My people cannot support such an act." The chamber erupted again. Other younger species began to side with Jun. The Council was splitting before Rin's eyes. "The humans demand justice for a crime committed long ago," Jun said when the noise faded. "I propose we give them what they ask for: a formal hearing, reparations, recognition of their right to claim a new homeworld." "Never," the Zith representative hissed. "If we show weakness now, other species will question our past decisions. The Council's authority will collapse." Rin watched the growing division with mixed feelings. As High Chancellor, she needed to preserve the Council. But as someone who had just discovered her human heritage, she felt the pull of justice for Earth. "I have made my decision," Rin announced. "In 3 hours, representatives from the human fleet will arrive to present their case. This chamber will hear them." The Muldarian counselor rose from his seat, his tentacles waving in anger. "You exceed your authority, Chancellor. We demand a vote." "A vote, then," Rin agreed. She looked around the chamber. "Those in favor of hearing the human testimony." Jun Choi's hand shot up first. Then the representatives of the Kelmar Federation, the Bryn Collective, and a dozen other younger species raised their hands or appendages. Those opposed: the founding species, Valorians, Zith, Muldarians, and 3 others, raised their votes. But they were outnumbered. "The motion passes," Rin declared. "Prepare the chamber." As the council members filed out, arguing among themselves, Sung Li approached Rin. "A dangerous game you play, Chancellor," he said quietly. "The founding species will not accept this easily." "I know," Rin replied. "Have you heard from Commander Ta?" "Yes. Captain Hoon has arrived in system with the asterisk Eternal Memory asterisk. He will lead the human delegation." Rin nodded. "And the fleet?" "Admiral Jin has positioned his ships near the capital defense grid. If anything happens to the delegation, he will attack." Rin felt the weight of history on her shoulders. 3,000 years of hatred and pain had led to this moment. Everything depended on what happened in the next few hours. In her private chamber, Rin changed into formal robes for the hearing. As she prepared, her security chief burst in. "Chancellor, we've detected assassins in the central tower. They're targeting the human delegation route." Rin's heart raced. "Who sent them?" "Unknown, but they carry Zith weapons." Rin grabbed her communicator. "Lock down all routes to the council chamber. Deploy all security forces." She turned to Sung. "Contact Ta. Tell him to delay the delegation." But it was too late. Captain Hoon and his group had already landed at the spaceport. "Get me a direct line to the human ship," Rin ordered. "And find those assassins." Outside, the 3 suns of Nexus Prime began to set, casting long shadows across the capital city. In those shadows, figures moved with deadly purpose. The council was fracturing, and some would rather see war than justice. Captain Hoon Kim and his small delegation moved quickly through the back corridors of the central tower. Commander Ta led the way, his weapon drawn. "The main route is blocked by assassins," Ta explained. "Chancellor Rin sent me an alert just in time." Hoon nodded. After 3,000 years of waiting, he would not be stopped now. With him was scientist Yoon Kim, who carried a metal case. Inside was humanity's greatest discovery, and most powerful bargaining tool, their own version of the Nexus key. How much farther? Yoon asked. She was younger than the others, nervous but determined. 2 more levels, Tae replied. Security forces are fighting the assassins, but we can't be sure it's safe. As they reached a junction, doors slid open ahead of them. A group of Zith warriors appeared, their scaled bodies moving fast, weapons pointed at the humans. Surrender, Earth spawn, the lead Zith hissed. Tai raised his weapon, but Hoon put a hand on his arm. We don't have time for this, Hoon said calmly. He turned to Yoon. Show them. Yoon hesitated, then opened the metal case. Inside was a small device that glowed with blue light. The Zith warriors stopped, their yellow eyes fixed on the device. This is why you destroyed Earth, Hoon said. You feared this technology. With good reason. Yoon pressed a button on the device. The lights in the corridor flickered. The Zith weapons went dead in their hands. What have you done? The Zith leader demanded. Just a small demonstration, Hoon explained. This device can disconnect any system from the cosmic energy grid, the same energy you founding species use for your immortality. The Zith warriors stepped back, their faces showing real fear for the first time. Let us pass, Hoon said, or we use this on a larger scale. The Zith moved aside. Hoon and his group continued toward the council chamber. In orbit around Nexus Prime, Admiral Jin sat on the bridge of the Remembrance *. His screen showed the situation on the planet. The human's position was tense but stable. Admiral, his communications officer said, we're receiving a transmission from Scientist Yoon. She's ready for the demonstration. Jin nodded. Prepare the system. Target the uninhabited test area. The crew worked quickly at their stations. This would be the first large-scale test of the Nexus key technology. All systems ready, Admiral. Jin took a deep breath. Begin the sequence. Back in the council chamber, all 12 council species had gathered again. The founding members sat in their high seats, looking down with cold eyes at the human delegation. The younger species watched with mixed emotions: curiosity, sympathy, and fear. High Chancellor Rin stood at the center. This special session will hear evidence from Captain Hoon Kim, representative of the human survivors, she announced. Hoon stepped forward. His voice was steady as he told the story of Earth's destruction. He showed the records Min Park had discovered in the archives. Many in the chamber gasped at the truth. We do not seek to destroy as you destroyed, Hoon said. We seek justice, acknowledgement of your crime, reparations for our people. The Valorian representative laughed. And if we refuse, what can your few ships do against the entire council fleet? Hoon looked at Yoon, who stepped forward with the Nexus key device. We can do this, she said, activating a large screen. The screen showed a star system near Nexus Prime, a small, uninhabited system with a yellow sun and 3 planets. As they watched, the star flickered like a candle in the wind. Then, for 10 seconds, it went completely dark. When it lit again, panic broke out in the chamber. Impossible, the Zith representative cried. We have rediscovered and improved the Nexus key technology, Yoon explained over the noise. We can disconnect any star from the cosmic energy grid that gives you immortality. We can make it permanent if we choose. The oldest council members looked suddenly old and afraid. Their immortality depended on the energy Yoon had just controlled. This is why you destroyed Earth, Hoon said into the silence that followed. You feared we would share this power with everyone. End your monopoly on immortality. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each council member. Now you face a choice: justice or mortality. Decide. For 7 days, the Galactic Tribunal met on Nexus Prime. It was unlike anything seen before in council history. Representatives from over 200 worlds gathered to hear the case of Earth's destruction. The Grand Hall had been converted into a courtroom. High Chancellor Rin Park sat at the center as judge. Captain Hoon and his team presented the human case, while the founding council species tried to defend their ancestors' actions. "We did what was necessary for galactic stability," the Valorian representative argued on the final day. The humans would have shared the Nexus key with everyone. Chaos would have followed. The hall was silent as Hoon stood to make his final statement. He had waited 3,000 years for this moment. "My ancestors watched Earth die," he said, his voice strong but sad. 7 billion lives ended in a day. Not for violence, not for aggression, but because we discovered a truth you wanted hidden. He looked around at the assembled representatives. "We humans have lived in exile, carrying the memory of our lost world. We could have returned with only vengeance in our hearts. We could have used the Nexus key to destroy you as you destroyed us." A murmur spread through the hall. "But we are better than that," Hoon continued. "We seek justice, not genocide. We ask this tribunal to acknowledge the crime committed against Earth, to make reparations to the survivors, and to ensure such a thing never happens again." When Hoon finished, Rin called for testimonies from other species. One by one, representatives came forward. Most of the younger species supported the humans. To everyone's surprise, some members of the founding species did too. An old Valorian named Tor stepped forward. "I have kept these records for 500 years, he said, placing a data crystal on the evidence table. "My ancestors opposed Earth's destruction. They were outvoted, but they preserved what they could." Similar testimonies followed. Not all council members had supported the genocide. Some had secretly preserved human artifacts, records, even genetic material. As the final testimony ended, a commotion broke out at the back of the hall. Guards shouted warnings as armed figures pushed into the chamber. The remaining Zith assassins had broken through security. "Death to the humans," they cried, weapons raised. But before they could fire, they were stopped by an unexpected force. A group of council citizens blocked their path. At their head stood Sung Li. "No more death," Sung declared. "We are the children of Earth." The hall fell silent. Sung continued, his voice carrying to every corner. "For generations, we have hidden among you, the descendants of humans who were saved by sympathetic council members. We have preserved Earth's culture, its memory." The assassins hesitated, confused by this revelation. "There are thousands of us," Sung said, "on every council world. We have waited for this day of truth." Security forces used this distraction to surround and capture the assassins. When order was restored, Rin stood to deliver the tribunal's decision. "We have heard all testimony," she announced. "This tribunal finds that the founding council species did commit genocide against the planet Earth and the human species. This crime was hidden from later council members and from the galactic community." The hall was completely silent now. 3,000 years of history hung in the balance. "The judgment of this tribunal is as follows," Rin continued. "First, the Galactic Council in its current form is dissolved. A new council will be formed with equal representation for all species, including humanity." She paused, looking at the founding species representatives. "Second, those species directly responsible for Earth's destruction will surrender control of 5 uninhabited worlds suitable for human habitation. Third, the Nexus key technology will be shared with all species, as the humans originally intended." Rin looked at Captain Hoon. "Is this justice in your eyes?" Hoon stood slowly. The weight of Earth's memory was on his shoulders. He thought of his ancestors who had died, of all the generations born in exile, of the home world none of them had ever seen except in pictures. "It is a beginning," he said simply. Rin nodded. "Then let the healing begin." 1 year after the tribunal's judgment, a new world came to life. The humans had chosen a planet in a quiet sector of the galaxy, far from the old council worlds, but close enough for trade and diplomacy. They named it Remembrance. From orbit, Remembrance looked much like Earth once did: blue oceans, green continents, white clouds. The terraforming technology provided as part of the reparations had worked perfectly. It was not Earth, but it was close. Captain Hoon Kim stood on a hill overlooking the first human city. Buildings rose from the valley below, their designs mixing old Earth styles with new ideas developed during the long exile. The colony ship Eternal Memory had landed permanently at the center of the city, converted into a museum and memorial. Director Ji-sun joined him on the hill. A year had changed her. The woman who had lived her whole life in space now had color in her cheeks from remembrance's sun. There was dirt under her fingernails from planting the first gardens. "It's beautiful," she said simply. Hoon nodded. "Our ancestors would be proud." "Do you miss the ship?" Ji asked. The Eternal Memory had been home to generations of humans. "Sometimes," Hoon admitted, "but I like feeling solid ground under my feet, real wind on my face. Things I only knew from stories and simulations." They watched as shuttles landed in the valley, bringing more humans from the fleet to their new home. Admiral Jin's ships now served as protection and exploration vessels rather than weapons of war. "High Chancellor Park has arrived," Ji said, checking her communicator. "The ceremony will begin soon." In the city center, a great gathering took place. Humans stood side by side with representatives from across the galaxy. The old council was gone. In its place, the Galactic Compact had formed, a new alliance where all species had equal voice. Rin Park, no longer Chancellor but now Earth's ambassador, took the central stage. Beside her stood Commander Tai, Captain Hoon, and Director Ji. 3,000 years ago, Rin began, a great wrong was done. Today, we take another step toward healing that wound. She gestured to a veiled monument behind her. Commander Ta pulled the covering away, revealing a perfect replica of Earth as it once was, a blue-green marble suspended in a field of stars. "This monument stands as a reminder of what was lost," Rin continued, "but also as a symbol of what we have gained: understanding, justice, and a new beginning." The crowd applauded. Many of the younger species had become strong supporters of humanity after learning the truth. Some had even offered their own worlds for human settlement. After the ceremony, Rin found Hoon standing alone by the monument. "It's not the revenge we planned," Hoon said quietly, "but I think it's better." Rin nodded. "Revenge would have continued the cycle. This breaks it." "Will you stay on remembrance?" Hoon asked. Since revealing her human heritage, Rin had become a bridge between humanity and the other species. "For a while," she said, "but there's still work to do. The Nexus key technology is being shared, as humans originally intended. I want to help with that." As evening fell, the celebrations continued in the new city. People danced under stars that were different from those that had shined on Earth, yet somehow felt like home. 2 weeks later, Rin and Tai took a small ship to a special location. They traveled to the coordinates where Earth had once existed. Now it was just empty space, protected as a memorial site by galactic law. Their ship stopped at the edge of where Earth's orbit had been. Rin opened a small container she had brought with her. Inside were seeds, hundreds of different plants from the original Earth, preserved by the human colonists for 3,000 years. One by one, Rin and Tai released the seed capsules into space. Each was designed to drift on solar winds, carrying Earth's life into the galaxy. "Earth's children return," Ta said softly, watching the capsules catch the light of the distant sun. "Not for revenge," Rin added, "but for remembrance and for hope." As the last seed capsule drifted away, their ship turned toward remembrance. Behind them, in the empty space where Earth had been, the seeds caught the sunlight like tiny stars, a constellation of life and memory that would travel forever through the cosmos. The end.